Time to throw that old 1080p monitor in the trash because I just found an absolutely mind-bendingly good deal on a 1440p 240Hz monitor that's so good I've been sporting a half chub while writing this very sentence. And you can take that to the bank, but you won't have to go to the bank yourself to take out a loan on this bad boy. That's right, today we're going to be doing a full review on the Acer XZ273U Xbmiiphx. Good lord! I'd like to know what mental giant came up with that name. In fact, from now on, I'm just gonna call it the Acer mouthful, but enough fucking around. Let's get right into the specs, price, and my test results. So according to Acer, the mouthful is a 27-inch 2560 by 1440 240Hz HDR gaming monitor with a VA panel, FreeSync support, 400 nits of peak brightness, a 1 millisecond response time, built-in speakers, and the ability to display up to 16.7 million colors, and for just $270 refurbished, or just over $300 new, that's one banging good deal. But are these specs actually true? Of course not. What do you think, these companies actually tell you the truth? So for starters, HDR is an absolute joke on this display. In fact, enabling it makes it look like you put on drunk goggles while your friends both pounded you in the head from either side until your vision slowly fades to black. So definitely don't enable HDR. And in fact, any display that's rated for HDR 600 or below is guaranteed to look like absolute shit, or at best it just won't give a meaningful HDR experience in any way. And speaking of brightness, after calibration, I could not get this monitor to actually display 400 nits of brightness in my testing, at least in SDR. Now maybe it can in HDR, but since I value my senses, I'm not turning that on. Now in terms of viewing angles, it's not bad at all, but it's a curved monitor, so unless you enjoy trying to spot the curvature of the earth on your weekends, that just really doesn't matter too much. But tighten your sphincters, boys, because before we move on to color calibration, yes, this monitor can move from side to side, up and down, and of course tilt with the included stand, although unfortunately it can't tilt left or right. Also, if you're wondering about ports, guys, it's a budget monitor. You're getting an HDMI display port and audio jack. Pause the video if you want more details. And now it's time to move on to color calibration, and good God, was it awful out of the box. I mean, the RGB values were way off and the color temperature was so blue it was approaching nearly 10,000K, which for reference, industry standard is typically a much warmer 6,500K. Now thankfully, I was able to get the RGB values way more in line, and I went from a delta E of 6 all the way down to 0.2. Also, I got the temperature down to 6,800K, so as you can imagine, it's a much better looking display now. But now let's talk about brightness. So taking a look at my charts, you can see here that in a 10% window, the mouthful was approaching 352 nits of peak brightness, which unfortunately does put it at the bottom of the chart compared to the other monitors that I've tested, although these monitors are far more expensive. Now in a 100% window, it did fare better, coming in at 350 nits. It absolutely destroyed the LG C1 OLED, as to be expected, but of course it was a little bit lower than the other displays, which are going to be much better for HDR. Now moving on to peak brightness in Battlefield 1, it did come in with 342 nits, which isn't too bad, but it was beat out by every other display. And then taking a look at the system latency here, it actually did pretty well, as it came in with 33 milliseconds of total system latency, which puts it just behind the Odyssey Neo G8, which is actually one of the fastest 240Hz monitors I've tested so far. So yeah, it's actually pretty good overall. And in terms of motion rate, as you can see on the screen right now, it actually looks great at 240Hz with very little ghosting. So now let's talk about the hard facts. Should you buy this display? Absolutely. It's fast, it's cheap, and it has a decent resolution for 27 inches. Now, yes, unfortunately, it does appear to use a semi-matte finish, so it's gonna look like someone dragged it across a dirt road with a truck. But honestly, guys, for $270 refurbished, which is what I bought and I'll have linked in the description below, I really don't think you have too much room to complain about the type of finish it's gonna be using. So there you have it. Hopefully that helped you out with your purchasing decision. And also, I want to give a big shout out to RuPro for sponsoring this video. Are you tired of slow, tiny cables? Well, no longer, because this baby can deliver perfect quality 4K 120Hz HDR content up to an incredible 33 feet, thanks to its mind-blowing 48 gigabits per second bandwidth, which is perfect for the new RTX 30 series cards if you're looking to run a new 4K high refresh rate HDR monitor, or a new LG OLED 120Hz 4K TV with your PS5 or Xbox Series X. And best of all, it's backed by a 5-year warranty. So if you want to get a high-speed, high-quality cable, be sure to click the link in the description below to find out more.